We're so lucky today to have Warren Haynes as our guest at the Bridge. If you do one thing really well, you can do it in studio here at the Bridge. Warren Haynes does more than one thing really well. Master guitar player, soulful vocals, brilliant songwriter, and also a genuinely nice guy. And it's so nice of you to come in and spend the time with us today.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
And congratulations on Ashes and Dust. Just a brilliant record.
Thank you.
This one was with Railroad Earth. A little bit of a change up for you, change in direction.
Yeah, I've been writing these kind of songs all my life that are more of a singer-songwriter sort of direction, coming from a folk sort of direction. And I've accumulated a lot, and it seemed like the right time to start recording them. And when I worked with the guys in Railroad Earth, we had a nice chemistry, and I thought, that'd be a good way to make the record. So
some of the very first track on the CD was written 30 years ago?
I think right around 30 years ago. It's the oldest song, and several are brand new. Most are, in the past 5 years or so. But there are a few that are that old, 20 and 30 years old, that I've been wanting to record that are extremely personal songs to me, but I never had the right reason.
Yeah, and you've described them as songs that just didn't fit in any of your projects. And, Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead, your solo projects, Government Mule, you had a lot of outlets, but that I guess speaks to the uniqueness of this one.
Yeah, there's probably a couple of songs on Ashes and Dust that Government Mule could have done or the Allman Brothers could have done. And there's one song in particular, the song Spots of Time, that I wrote with Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead. The Allman Brothers had been performing that song, and we probably would have recorded it had we made a final record, which we just never did make.
Yeah. Did you wish that the Allmans had done one last record?
I think so, yeah. I think everybody from one time to another wished we had made another record. We just couldn't get everybody wishing it at the same time. I think we should have made another record, and I think it would have been a really good record. But I have no regrets. 25 great years.
Yeah, you were with the Allman Brothers. They decided to hang it up. You were with the Dead. They decided to hang it up. It's sort of like, I was wondering if it would be cool to introduce you as Warren Haynes, band killer.
Probably not my favorite introduction, but...
Well, we assume that you're going to be back with Government Mule before too long at some point.
Yeah. We're talking about making another Government Mule record. I'm going to be promoting Ashes and Dust for quite a while. And when that finishes, we'll go back in the studio.
Well, we'd love to hear some music if we could.
Sure. You brought up Is It Me? Is It Me or You? I'll play that.
Okay.
Tears on the inside of your face, not on the outside, no pain to penetrate the calluses. Palaces you build from the ground floor, show all in the dark side of your past. So long since you've tried to replace the wooden mask that hangs around your neck like some token of a war. A survivor is what you call yourself, but have you looked through the eyes of someone else? Is it me or you that's killing you, baby? Is it me or you that's trying to hang on? Like a bullet dancing in your breast, you hide the answer. You're pointing at my chest with your aiming eyes. eyes that used to be my window. The denier, never seeking help. But has it grown too late to help yourself? Is it me or you that's killing you, baby? Is it me or you that's trying to hang on? You see, nobody wants to save you. Nothing in this world can save you. Maybe I could save you if I only knew. Is it me or you? Tears on the inside of your face. But none on the outside. No pain could penetrate the calluses. Palaces you built from the ground floor.
That was absolutely lovely, Warren.
Thank you.
Warren Haynes in our studio today. And, of course, at the Uptown Theater tonight, the new CD, the new album is Ashes and Dust. You know, when you were growing up, a lot of the music that you fell in love with came courtesy of your older brothers.
Absolutely.
Soul, rock, and of course, like one of your brothers had a record store, a club.
I had a record store for 25 years. He eventually opened a club in the basement called The Basement. And people like the Bottle Rockets and Lucinda Williams and Ryan Adams played there. But it was only there a short period of time. But I grew up in a house with thousands of albums and all different types of music. So I could kind of study as if I were in a library. It was great.
That brother's running for city council.
He is running for city council right now, and I think he'll win.
Yeah.
He's very shy. He's having to overcome his fear of public speaking, but he's got a great heart, and he'll be the guy.
You know, he has worked for Habitat for Humanity, and you always do the Winter Jam shows, and raised over $1 million for Habitat for Humanity.
I think we're around 1.6 million that we've raised now. We built a lot of houses, and it's a wonderful organization. And I've had so many friends and local musicians, and especially national musicians and international musicians, be part of it through the years that we've been able to make it get bigger and bigger and bigger and raise more and more money. It's been wonderful.
So your brothers gave you that rock and the soul, but the folk music that has inspired Ashes and Dust was your dad kind of creeped that in the back door on you.
My dad was listening to Bill Monroe and Doc Watson and Ralph Stanley and stuff like that. And I didn't think I liked that music until I was about 13. And then I realized, hey, Dad's music is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I started studying. It probably started with Bob Dylan for me, falling in love with singer-songwriter music and just studying everything pre-Dylan and post-Dylan and trying to figure out where all these songwriters came from, you know, and storytelling songs, which I really love.
You know, your dad had to be pretty special. You had a scholarship to go to college, but he was okay with the choice you made, which was to go and play guitar for David Allan Coe.
Yeah, I don't know if he was okay.
He was okay. He didn't disown you.
He didn't kill me.
Yeah.
My dad was great. He's still alive. He was a great singer. He had a beautiful singing voice. And I think the fact that he never pursued music and he just worked constantly to support three boys, which he did by himself, he liked the fact that I was obsessed with music and that's what I wanted to do. And he knew it wasn't just a passing thing for me, so he was very supportive. But he did encourage me to just follow my dream, and I know it wasn't probably his choice, but
Yeah.
he was great that way.
A few years back, you wrote a song called Company Man that made it onto this record. And I thought one of the things that was interesting was when you actually went to record it, you thought, well, maybe I ought to fact check this.
We went on vacation, my dad and I, and I thought, I don't want to get anything wrong, so I started quizzing him about a lot of the history. And I don't think he actually realized that I was interviewing him, but I did have to rewrite a few of the lines based on mistakes that I had made from what I thought was correct. And it's a very personal song. I probably never would have recorded it until Ashes and Dust came around, and it turned into a very personal record. So I thought, Company Man makes sense for this record, I think.
Has he heard it?
He has heard it recently. We haven't really talked about it, but he loves this record. He loves the vibe of it and everything. He just heard it recently.
Yeah, he sounds like a really special guy. We'd love to hear another song if we could.
Well, I guess you want to hear that one.
Whatever you want to play.
I wasn't going to do it, but I can. This is about my dad. This is called Company Man.
Started working here when I was 21. Summer of '56, my life had just begun. Back then, this place was some place to be. I thought I could grow with the company. Never took it down, never raised a fuss. Right is right, even for those of us who make $1 while the man makes 10. And they say hard work pays off in the end. Everything I got with my own hands. Never wanted to be no company man. So I kept my eyes open and my mouth shut. So my workload increased and my pay cut. But I bought a house, started a family. Still had some faith in the company. Hard times hit 6 to 7 late. Devil must have opened up the floodgates. My wife, she left me for some other guy. In my heart, guess I always knew why. She was never gonna understand. Couldn't be no company man. '79 brought a dose of reality. We'd all heard the rumors about the company. Till one day they shut us down throughout the South. And keeping my job meant moving out. So I got hired on at the local factory. Couldn't see uprooting my whole family. Never thought I'd be starting over at this stage, taking crap from some punk half my age. No retirement, no hospital plan. Never wanted to be no company man. Long since retired now from the factory. hardly ever think about the company. Kinda lonesome, kids are grown, moved away, families of their own. I got me a little house and a piece of land. Never wanna be no company man. Sometimes in this world you gotta make a stand. Never wanted to be no company man.
Warren Haynes in our studios. He's at the Uptown Theater tonight. New record is Ashes and Dust. That was really great.
Thank you.
You know, it's I love, you know, connection to family, and I know that song meant a lot to you.
It's a very personal song to me. The first few times I tried to perform it live, it was kind of hard to get through. But
Yeah.
you know, because it's real. It's dealing with the ups and downs. You know.
When you got started with this record, one of the things that surprised me was that one of the records that you looked to was Van Morrison's Astral Weeks.
I always loved that record. You know, for people that don't know, that record was made, I think, in 1967. It was made in a day and a half, back when they could do that.
Yeah.
It's a very raw, underproduced, live in the studio recording. There are mistakes on it. There are times when you hear wrong chords, when you hear somebody out of tune. But it's the most real music, the most real example of music that I could give someone. So we, on a few of the songs, we took a template from that. One of them being the song Hallelujah Boulevard. Right before we recorded it, I said, everybody just think Astral Weeks. And so what happened was we created this kind of dreamscape, stream of consciousness intro that doesn't really let you know what's coming, you know, and it's very beautiful, and that's the way I like to approach music.
A little bit of surprise.
Yeah, I think, you know, it adds to the spontaneity of the music, and I think a listener can feel that, you know.
You're a fan of first takes.
Absolutely. All my favorite records, whether you're talking about Otis Redding or James Brown, or the early rock music that we all love, they tried to capture the first take if possible. And I know Booker T used to talk about Otis Redding, and he said Otis had 2 or 3 good takes in him, and after that he was trying to repeat what he had already done. So you had to capture one of the first takes to get him. And so it was more important that they captured Otis than it was that they captured the band. So he's like, we had to be on our toes, make sure we were good for that first take.
You know, the first time I ever interviewed you, we so wanted you to do a song, and you chose that song to play for us, and we're just praying for that song, and you got about a third of the way into it, and all of a sudden the pick goes flying across the room.
Uh-oh.
And our hearts sank because you'd lost your pick right in the middle of this song that we'd so looked forward to. But you just calmly reached up, got another pick, and went back to the song. And so after you left the room, we were sitting there thinking, well, maybe we can repair that, you know, in the production room, like find a similar place in this song. We took it back and listened to it. We couldn't find where you'd flipped the pick. You know, and it was such a learning moment for us, but I couldn't help but think about that when I was doing the research for this interview, and you were talking about the value of mistakes. And for you, that mistake was it was breathing. You know, you've performed so much that it never bothered you, never stopped you, and it just became a part of the song that was so seamless we couldn't even identify.
Well, you know, I've learned to accept mistakes as part of the music, and not just accept them, but embrace mistakes. When I go back and listen to a lot of my favorite records, you can hear what were mistakes that we didn't know were mistakes back then. At the time, it just sounded great, you know.
Yeah.
And so I tend to look at it that way. B.B. King used to always say, if I don't make 10 mistakes in a night, it's not a good night. So What he meant, and I agree with that, is that when you're pushing yourself to really perform, you're going to screw up. It's when you're not pushing yourself that you just go through the motions and everything's fine. But on a good night, things will happen.
So you would come into the studio and introduce a new song to Railroad Earth, and y'all just go.
I purposefully asked them up front if they were okay with recording that way. I didn't give them any of the songs in advance. We didn't rehearse the songs in advance. We just went into the studio, and I would pick up an acoustic guitar and show it to them, and we would start working on an arrangement and and then do a recording. And if it was good, we would move on to the next song, which was another song that they had never heard. I felt like for this kind of music, the music would really benefit from that. You would get this freshness that comes when musicians are playing a song for the first time, which I really enjoy.
You know, it's so interesting that you ended up with Railroad Earth in the studio, because one of the times when you almost made this record was 6 or 7 years ago. You were trying to get Levon Helm and Leon Russell into the studio.
Yeah, and we had already kind of put aside some time to record. We were going to record at Levon's studio in Woodstock, New York. And we got delayed, and then T-Bone Walk, who was going to be the bass player on the project, passed away. And then shortly after that, Levon Helm passed away, and so that record just kind of disintegrated. So at that point, I made Man in Motion, which was my last solo record that was more like soul music meets blues, because I had written a lot of songs in that vein as well. And then I kept writing songs that made it onto Ashes and Dust. So some of those songs that we were going to record back then are on here, and then a lot of new songs as well.
So the sessions with Railroad Earth, when you finally did get around to it, pretty productive. You recorded 30 songs?
I think we did 25 or 30 songs all told. So there's at least one more record in the can that'll be a follow-up to this. And then I've got probably 8 or 10 other songs that I've written that are similar that I want to record as well. So this may be the beginning of kind of a series.
You know, I just love your attitude about music and how you continue to stretch yourself as an artist. One of the things I kind of tripped on is at some point you'd like to make an instrumental jazz record.
Well, I've written a lot of instrumental jazz-influenced songs. I don't consider myself a jazz musician, but that's something I've always wanted to do. The closest we've come is when we recorded the live record with John Schofield, which is all instrumental music. And that was something that we all really loved, but I'd love to get into the studio with that same kind of attitude. And I'd love to make a traditional blues record as well.
So the band that you're playing with tonight at the Uptown Theater, recommended to you by Bela Fleck?
There's a group of guys that live in Nashville now. They're all young newgrass musicians called Chess Boxer. And Bela and I were talking one day, and he recommended them to me. He knew that I was looking to put a new band together. And I really liked their freshness and their approach to the music. And then I asked my old friend Jeff Sipe, who is one of my favorite drummers, to join us as well. And so we've been rehearsing and preparing for this tour. And this tour is going to go on for a long time, so we're going to keep adding and adding and adding material as we go along.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
There's some really great stuff on this album, Ashes and Dust, and it features a couple of guest shots. Grace Potter's on it.
Grace Potter and I did a duet of Gold Dust Woman.
That was a little bit unexpected.
Well, I didn't actually go into the studio thinking that I was going to record Gold Dust Woman. But once we started making the record and hearing all the acoustic instruments and this kind of Celtic approach that we were taking to the songs, I thought maybe it would be cool to do it that way. Grace and I had done it on stage before, but never in the studio. So I called her and she said, yeah, let's do it. And she dropped by the studio and it turned out great. You
have a song on there called Wanderlust that is about Graham Parsons.
It is.
And your first thought was Emmylou Harris.
You knew about that.
Yeah. You ended up with Sean Colvin. That's not too bad.
Sean did an amazing job. I had wanted Emmylou to sing harmony on it, and she wanted to do it, but it didn't fit into her time schedule. And we even toyed with the possibility of pushing the release date back because it was that important to me. And then Joe McEwen from our label called and said, I spoke to Sean Colvin, and she'd love to do it. And I thought, well, she would be awesome. Let's do that. She really sounds great.
Well, the entire record, it's just, you should be so proud of this. I know you are.
Well, thank you.
It's a record that I'm sure in a way it feels like it's 30 years in the making.
And in some ways it is, but we made it pretty quickly, which I'm very happy with.
I think about the things that I did 30 years ago, and I want them to stay in the distant past. You know, the fact that you've got stuff that still works, that's pretty amazing.
Well, I hold on to the good ones. You know, there's a lot from that era that I have no desire to record.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to the Uptown Theater tonight, and I cannot recommend Ashes and Dust highly enough. We'd love to get one more song.
Thank you. This is Spots of Time, which I wrote with Phil Lesh.
Spots of time flash before my eyes like ribbons of light. Selfishly I try to touch them before they disappear into the night. Running fearlessly as in a dream, headlong into the wind. Cool night air blowing through our hair, moonlight dancing on your skin. Do you remember how young we were? Or is it just me? Imagine it like I always do, that we were once wild and free. A young man yearns for days gone by, innocence once removed, familiar feeling of a front porch swing and a song that only soothed. Spots of time like windows appear, and you can look out or in, but you can't get to the future. I regret not going through the past, my friend. Do you remember how young we were, or is it just me? Imagine it like I always do, that we were once wild and free. A mother's tear, a sparrow's wing, a lover's eyes softly glistening, memories that to me are everything, but to someone else, maybe only ashes and dust. Oh, do you remember how young we were, or is it just me? Imagine it like I always do, that we were once wild and free. Oh, do you remember how young we were, or is it just me? Imagine it like I always do, that we were once wild and free.
Warren Haynes in the studio. I think at the beginning of the interview, we talked about how that could have been a song on the final Allman Brothers
Yes.
record. And, you know, Allman Brothers lost.
Well, and so I brought in Oteil Burbridge and Mark Quinones from the Allman Brothers to help me record it. So 3 of us are on that recording.
It sure sounds like a classic. We are so spoiled to have you come into the studio and play like this for us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Warren Haynes tonight at the Uptown Theater. You can find out more at warrenhaynes.net. And, of course, the new project with Railroad Earth, Ashes and Dust. Thanks again so much,
My
Warren.
pleasure.